there, guys. So this is Conceptual Concept 6.9 here. Here to have a discussion about a GPR AK. The reason I'm doing this is I don't see a lot of videos on it, and it's kind of one of my favorite things. Specifically going to be talking about 7.62 by 39 today. I know they make different calibers, but we'll just leave it to that. So why I decided to have this discussion was I had a very lively conversation with some guys on a podcast called Mid-Tier Thoughts. Austin and Mike are their names. Great guys, great podcast. Definitely check it out on Spotify. But it was AR versus AK versus G3, which it was very interesting to have that discussion. It really kind of sparked my thoughts again, like kind of revived this dead horse to get beat once more. And I kind of wanted to share my thoughts with you guys, just kind of get into why an AK is still a very viable general purpose rifle. So let's start with the rifle, and then we'll move on to the caliber 7.62 by 39. So the rifle itself is better suited for neglect. So they definitely run without oil. Oil doesn't hurt. It's probably recommended, but longest I've run this without a drop of oil is 7,000 rounds, and it's still chugged. Carbon was leaking out of the sides of the receiver because I was shooting suppressed and it got super gross. Maintenance is much easier. It's only 4 parts total when you break it down, especially with these hinged dust covers, because the dust cover stays on the receiver barrel unit. So much simpler. The lugs are easier to clean. It's easier to get into. It's kind of built like that on purpose. But then the next reason is cold weather performance. So the AK definitely handles cold weather a little better. Everything's kind of high leverage points. So your safety is nice and big, easy to index. Magazine release, it's all leverage. It's all, you pull it out. It's easier to break ice if it gets frozen. Since this can run dry, it's not as dependent on oil, so ARs have a little bit of issue if you get too thick of an oil during the winter, especially when it gets down into the single digits. They'll start to struggle a little bit. I was on a shoot last winter, a night vision shoot with, I want to say 6 or 7 guys, and all but one of their ARs went down. I was the only guy with an AK. Mine was dry as shit, and it just kept chugging, man. So definitely something to be said there. It has a few misconceptions. Accuracy is definitely the biggest, like, old wives' tale that people tell about this thing. They're not a sub-MOA gun. Wasn't designed to be, still very usable. I mean, the M4 wasn't designed to be either. So military requirements for an M4 is 4 MOA. So it's not that sub-MOA people talk about. And I would dare to say almost all your AR-15s, unless you're shooting match ammo, are not sub-MOA guns. This guy here, BCM Enhanced Lightweight Upper here. This guy I have green tip stockpiled. The green tip is about a 2.5 MOA gun. It's not as accurate as everyone thinks it is. Am I happy with 2.5 MOA? Absolutely. I can still hit things out to 600 yards. No big deal. So people get stuck, and America definitely does. I mean, we're a country of riflemen. We've been kind of into that for a while. People get stuck on accuracy, but there's a point where it's acceptable. It's not a hindrance to have a less accurate gun. Is it a bad thing to have more accurate? Not necessarily, but what are the trade-offs, right? Like, are you building a more or a less reliable rifle is kind of the deal. People say it's not modular. I dare to argue on that as well. So this is a Zenico Sport 1 kit with a B33 dust cover. Can mount anything I need to. All the modern accoutrements. So I've got light laser. I've got a ACOG on here that holds 0 perfectly. Very, very good. The ACOG is probably one of my favorite optics, especially paired with a red dot. Kind of use it as a better magnifier, red dot magnifier combo. So when I'm shooting, I use the red dot, and then if there's something I need magnification for, I just drop down, I'm already there. So it's a great combination. I'll show a video right now, right here. 1 to 400 yards, one shot, one hit all the way out with this ACOG on this AK. So it's definitely capable of achieving those general purpose rifle ranges. It's not a DI system, which is actually a huge benefit when running suppressed. There's a reason all the first world countries are moving away from the DI ARs. It's because suppressors here are getting to be more and more of a part of the modern battlefield. They're becoming a necessity. So, needless to say, DI shits where it eats. The gas comes all the way back, and I probably should grab the AR for this demonstration. The gas comes all the way back on this tube, all the way back into the receiver, and blows it into the bolt carrier group, causing the bolt carrier group to go back cycle. But suppressed, it adds back pressure, it adds gas, it gets gummier, and especially with the tight tolerances, it's going to need more oil, more cleaning than the AK will, because it's a lot less gas going into the receiver. So next is the parts breakage. So AKs are less likely to break parts, and when they do, they're easier to change. So AKMs are pretty simple, easy to run. Bolt carrier group is easy to take out, doesn't need any tools, doesn't have any little bits and parts. It's actually just two pieces. You've got your bolt carrier group and your bolt. If you need to delve into the bolt, naturally you'll have to take more apart, but compared to an AR, I would dare to say less parts. So lastly, everyone talks about how this is a STG-44 just because it looks very similar. Almost nothing in common with the STG-44 actually. So only thing in common, long stroke gas piston, which I would dare to say it's more connected to the M1 Garand. So the AK is kind of an upside down M1 Garand bolt carrier group and piston on stamped sheet metal. So no one complains about the M1 Garand, but for some reason AKs are commie trash. I don't understand it. So let's move on to caliber now. So 7.62x39 is superior for barrier penetration. Definitely blows through more stuff, as well as brush deflection. So I'm going to insert some pictures here showing some targets from when we were out in the woods. We were shooting AR-15s and not even like heavy brush. There were twigs and stuff between us and the targets. And a good portion of the rounds keyholed because they got spun up, they got destabilized by just simple twigs and hit the target sideways, which, I mean, if the target's close, it's still gonna fuck up their day. But let's say the brush is 3 yards away from you, you hit a twig, and the target is 60 to 80 meters away. Good chance that round's not even gonna hit them, and if it does, is it gonna have enough energy to actually fuck them up? Maybe, maybe not. The AK just doesn't have that issue. It just kind of punches through the brush, no big deal. It's not as reliant on velocity to be effective. So 7.62x39 is a heavy pill. Goes down range, it wrecks days. So definite benefit there. Reliability. So a lot of people don't talk about this. So why the AK's magazine is curved like this? It's because the round is actually a conical round. It's a cone. This is exaggerated, but it's a conical round. And the benefit to that is when it chambers and when it extracts, so the round, as soon as it starts extracting, because of the way it's shaped, the walls of the casing are not dragging against the chamber for long because that cone will slip right out. So it won't be touching the walls. So it makes for more reliable extraction, which is why, like, you can run the cheapest steel shit you have. Like, I have rusted ammo I still shoot out of this gun, and it's no problem. Downside is out at range, the wind plays more of a factor and it drops more. Now, I'm still comfortable making hits out to 400 or 500 yards with this, but past that it gets a little sketchy because the drop is pretty crazy, and if there's a light breeze, it's going to throw your bullet off pretty far. Now, that being said, as a GPR rifle, my goal is 500 yards. So do I make that? Yes. So let's get into the downsides of the AK. The AK is a little less common in the US. It's definitely not America's rifle, so there's less aftermarket. The parts are a little more proprietary, and part of that comes from the great success of the rifle. So I want to say 70 to 100 countries have fielded this gun, and still high double digits are right now. Everyone has their little tweaks, so you can get into Serbian pattern or AKM or milled receiver. Like, everyone's kind of done different shit with it, but AKM is typically pretty standard and easy to get and easy to find. So I would stick with that AKM pattern. Palmetto makes it. The Arsenal Bulgarian guns are AKM pattern for the most part. Stuff like that. The weight savings is a big downside to this. It is about 1.5 pounds heavier naked than the AR-15 is, which definite downside. The ammo is also heavier, so it's a trade-off. Modern warfare has taught us that those who shoot the most win, so 5.56 tends to be a better round in that aspect, but there are definitely upsides to carrying the heavier round. Just understand the risk versus reward. The commonality in the US, I already went over that. Range is past, he just wants to say hi. Past 500 yards, its range is kind of limited. 5.56, you can still shoot out quite a bit past 500 yards, but I'm just going to argue and say at that point it's a 22. Can it still wreck someone's day? Absolutely, but is it a super effective round out there? No. That's about it. So in conclusion, it really doesn't matter. I'd say the AK has its upsides, the AR has its upsides. Really weigh out what you want and what you want to do with it, and kind of go from there. I think the AK is definitely a solid option. This has been my main squeeze for about 7 years here, and I'm still really happy with it. I don't have any problems. I don't see it having many shortcomings compared to an AR. But yeah, go outside, touch grass, and eat ass.